The restaurant was calm and quiet. Soft music played in the background. Crystal lights hung from the ceiling. The smell of expensive food filled the air. This was not a place for noise. This was a place for power, money, and respect. Every table was full. Men in suits. Women in designer dresses. Watches worth more than most houses. People spoke in low voices. Nobody laughed too loud. Nobody made mistakes here. At the corner table, near the window, sat a black teenager. He was alone. No phone in his hand. No food on the table yet. Just a glass of water in front of him. He wore a simple black hoodie and clean sneakers. Nothing flashy. Nothing expensive. People noticed him. They always did. A woman at the next table whispered, "What is he doing here?" A man looked at him and shook his head slowly. "He looks lost." The waiter walked past the teen twice but did not stop. He stopped at every other table. Smiles. Respect. Quick service. But not for the black teen. The teen did not react. He sat straight. Calm. His eyes moved slowly around the room. Not nervous. Not scared. Just watching. Nobody knew why. Across the room, in the center of the restaurant, sat an old man. Everyone knew him. He was a billionaire. Not the loud kind. Not the type that showed off. He did not wear gold chains or big rings. He wore a clean gray suit and simple glasses. But his presence was heavy. When he walked in, the manager himself came to greet him. The best table was ready before he arrived. The chef came out just to shake his hand. This man owned companies, buildings. Cities had felt his decisions. And tonight, he was eating dinner quietly. He looked peaceful. Too peaceful. Suddenly, the front doors opened. The sound was loud. All heads turned. 4 men walked in together. They did not belong here. Their clothes were dark. Their faces were hard. Their eyes moved fast. They did not look at the menu. They did not look for a table. They looked straight at the billionaire. The air changed. The music felt quieter. Forks stopped moving. Conversations died. The 4 men walked forward. One of them cracked his neck. Another clenched his jaw. Their steps were heavy. Angry. The billionaire looked up. He did not panic. He did not stand. He just watched them. The manager rushed forward, nervous. "Gentlemen, can I help you?" One of the men pushed him aside. "Sit down," the man said. The manager froze. People started to feel it now. Fear. Someone whispered, "Is this a robbery?" Another voice said, "No, this feels personal." The black teen in the corner watched everything. He did not move. One of the 4 men pointed at the billionaire. "You thought you could hide here?" The billionaire wiped his mouth with a napkin. Calm. Slow. "I was having dinner," he said. That calm made the men angrier. One of them stepped closer. "You ruined our lives." Chairs scraped the floor as people moved back. Phones came out. Someone quietly dialed the police. The waiter finally noticed the teen. "Hey," he whispered harshly, "this is not your problem. Stay seated." The teen did not answer. His eyes were locked on the 4 men. The men were loud now. Threats filled the room. The restaurant manager begged them to stop. Then something strange happened. The black teen stood up. Slowly. Not rushed. Not afraid. People looked at him confused. Angry. A man shouted, "Sit down, kid." A woman whispered, "Is he crazy?" The teen ignored them. He took 1 step forward. Then another. His face was calm. His hands were open. His eyes were focused. The billionaire noticed him. For the first time that night, the old man's expression changed. Just a little. Recognition. The 4 men turned around. They looked at the teen. At first they laughed. Then they stopped. Something about the teen's face made them quiet. The room felt frozen. Nobody breathed. Nobody spoke. And nobody, not one person in that room, knew the truth yet. They did not know who the black teen really was. But they were about to find out. And when they did, everything would change. The room stayed frozen. No one spoke. The 4 men stood still, but their anger was still there. You could feel it, like heat in the air. Their eyes stayed on the old billionaire, but their minds were confused now. Because the black teen was standing, and he was not afraid. The billionaire slowly placed his napkin on the table. His hands were steady. His face showed no fear, only control. "Sit," the man said calmly to the attackers. His voice was low, soft, but powerful. One of the men laughed. "You still think you are in control?" The billionaire did not answer right away. He looked past them. His eyes moved to the black teen. Just for a second. That second said everything. The teen noticed it too. He stopped walking. The people around them missed that moment. But it mattered. Because this was not the first time these two had looked at each other. The billionaire turned back to the men. You came here angry, he said. That was your first mistake. The men stepped closer. You destroyed our company, one of them said. You took everything from us. The billionaire nodded slowly. You destroyed yourselves, he replied. That calm answer made the men even angrier. One of them grabbed a chair and threw it to the side. The loud crash made people scream. A woman covered her mouth. A man dropped his phone. The manager begged, please stop. This is a public place. The men ignored him. Still, the billionaire stayed seated. That confused everyone. Why wasn't he scared? Why wasn't he running? Why wasn't he calling for help? The black teen watched carefully. His eyes moved from face to face. From the men, to the exits, to the staff. He was reading the room. The waiter who had ignored him earlier now looked at him with fear. Kid, he whispered, you should leave. Now, the teen did not move. He adjusted his hoodie slightly. That was all. One of the attackers noticed. What are you looking at? The man snapped. The teen looked at him calmly. I'm watching, he said. His voice was steady. No checking. No anger. That made the room quiet again. The billionaire finally stood up. People gasped. He was not a tall man. He was old. His body showed years of work and pressure. But when he stood, the energy changed. You came for me, the billionaire said. Not them. He looked at the crowd. Leave them out of this. One of the men smiled. You always think you are the hero. The billionaire did not smile back. I'm not a hero, he said. I'm just prepared. That word, prepared, felt heavy. The black teen's jaw tightened slightly. One of the men reached inside his jacket. People screamed. Someone shouted, he has a weapon. The teen moved instantly. He stepped between the men and the billionaire. Fast, smooth, natural, like he had done this before. The restaurant fell silent. The billionaire did not stop him. He did not tell him to move. That was strange. Very strange. The teen raised one hand slightly. Don't, he said. Just one word. The man froze. His hand stopped inside his jacket. Sweat formed on his face. The other attackers stared at the teen now. Really stared. Their smiles disappeared. Something clicked in their minds. They had seen this look before. They just couldn't place it. The billionaire spoke again. You don't know where you are, he said. And you don't know who you're standing in front of. One of the men whispered. Who is this kid? The billionaire did not answer. The teen did not answer. Instead, the teen took one slow step forward. The lights reflected in his eyes. Cold, focused, unmoved. The man with his hand in his jacket slowly pulled it back out. Empty. He swallowed hard. The room felt like it was holding its breath. Outside, faint sirens could be heard in the distance. Getting closer, the teen leaned slightly toward the men and said quietly, you should have walked away. The four men looked at each other. Fear had replaced anger. And deep down, they all knew the same thing. This night was not going the way they planned. Not at all. And the truth about the black teen was closer than anyone realized. The sound of sirens grew louder. Not close yet, but close enough. The four men heard it too. Their faces changed. They knew time was running out. One of them stepped back and whispered, we don't have much time. Another man shook his head. No, we finished this now. The billionaire stood behind the black teen. He did not move. He trusted him. The teen felt that trust like weight on his shoulders. The man who had reached into his jacket earlier suddenly moved again. Fast. Too fast. He pulled out a small metal object. People screamed. Chairs fell. Glass shattered. The restaurant exploded into chaos. Down, someone shouted. The black teen reacted instantly. He grabbed the attacker's wrist and twisted hard. The metal object fell to the floor with a sharp sound. The man screamed in pain. Before anyone could breathe, another attacker rushed forward. The teen pushed the first man away and turned. His movements were controlled. Clean. No wasted energy. He blocked the second man's punch and knocked him back into a table. Plates crashed to the floor. Food spilled everywhere. The room smelled like fear. The billionaire watched closely. His face showed no shock, only focus. The other two men hesitated. This was not part of the plan. This is not just some kid, one of them said. The teen stood between them and the billionaire. His chest moved slowly as he breathed. Come. One of the men grabbed a glass bottle and smashed it on the table. Sharp edges pointed forward. Move, the man yelled. The teen did not move. You don't want to do this, the teen said. His voice was low, firm. The man laughed nervously. Too late. He rushed forward. The teen stepped aside at the last second and grabbed the man's arm. With one clean move, he twisted it and forced the man to the ground. The bottle slid across the floor. People watched in shock. Phones recorded everything. Nobody had expected this. The last attacker stood frozen. He looked around. Two men were down. One was holding his wrist, crying in pain. Police sirens were loud now. Very loud. The last man backed away slowly. This isn't over, he said. The teen took one step forward. Yes, he said. It is. The man turned and ran. The restaurant doors flew open. Police officers rushed in. Hands up, they shouted. Officers pinned the attackers to the floor. Handcuffs clicked shut. The noise was overwhelming. People cried. People shook. Some sat on the floor, unable to stand. The danger was over. But the tension was not. The teen stood still. He looked down at his hands. They were steady. The billionaire placed a hand on his shoulder. A simple gesture, full of meaning. You did well, the old man said quietly. The police looked at the teen now. Who are you? An officer asked. The teen did not answer. He looked at the billionaire. The billionaire nodded slightly. The teen turned back to the officer. I'll explain, he said. The restaurant was silent again. Everyone stared at him now. Not with judgment. With confusion. With respect. The waiter who had ignored him earlier looked ashamed. The woman who whispered before could not stop staring. The manager wiped sweat from his face. Is everyone okay? The billionaire asked. People nodded slowly. The police began to take statements. But no one could stop thinking about the same question. Who was this black teen? He did not fight like a normal kid. He did not move like someone scared. He moved like someone trained. Someone prepared. Someone who had done this before. The teen looked around the restaurant one last time. He saw the broken glass, the fear on faces, the silence. Then he looked at the billionaire. Their eyes met again. This time, everyone noticed. And everyone felt it. There was a connection, a deep one. The truth was coming. And when it came, it would shock them all. The police finished their work. The four men were taken away. The restaurant was no longer loud. It was heavy. Broken glass covered the floor. Chairs were upside down. Plates were shattered. But nobody cared about the damage. All eyes were on the black teen. He stood near the billionaire, quiet again. Like nothing had happened. One officer walked closer. You saved a lot of lives tonight, he said. The teen nodded once. Just doing what I had to do. That answer confused people even more. The officer asked again, where did you learn to move like that? The teen paused. He looked at the billionaire. The billionaire gave a small nod. You can tell them, the old man said. The teen took a deep breath. But instead of speaking, the story moved back in time. Years ago, a much younger boy stood alone at a grave. Rain fell softly. He wore the same calm face. But inside he was breaking. His mother was gone. She had raised him alone, taught him respect, strength, silence. She had told him one thing again and again. Never let the world tell you who you are. After her death, everything changed. A black car came one day. A driver stepped out. Then the old billionaire. The same man from the restaurant. People thought the boy was just another poor black kid from the wrong side of town. They were wrong. The billionaire was his grandfather. A truth kept hidden for years. The boy had never known his father, and the world had never known about him. The billionaire took the boy in quietly. No press, no news, no spotlight, only discipline, only preparation. The boy trained every day, not for fame, not for money, for survival. He learned control before power, silence before violence. He learned how to read people, how to see danger before it moved. How do you stay calm? The billionaire once asked him. The boy answered, fear makes noise. I don't. The story returned to the restaurant. The teen finally spoke. My grandfather taught me, he said. People gasped. Grandfather? Someone whispered. The billionaire stepped forward. Yes, he said. He is my blood. The room exploded with shock. The waiter dropped his pen. The manager froze. The woman who judged him earlier covered her mouth. This boy, the billionaire continued, was trained to protect himself long before tonight. The teen looked down. I don't like fighting, he said, but I won't run either. The officer nodded slowly. That explains a lot, he said. The billionaire placed a hand on the teen's shoulder. This world judges fast, the old man said, and it learns slow. The teen looked around the restaurant. Now, people avoided his eyes, not because he was black, but because they were ashamed. The waiter finally walked up. I'm sorry, he said quietly. I didn't treat you right. The teen looked at him. I know, he said. Then he added, but now you see. That sentence hit harder than any punch. The billionaire smiled slightly. The manager cleared his throat. Sir, your dinner. We're done here, the billionaire said. He turned to leave. The teen followed. As they walked toward the door, people moved out of their way. Respect had replaced judgment. Fear had turned into understanding. Outside, the night was calm. The teen stopped. Why did you never tell anyone? He asked. The billionaire answered without stopping. Because real power doesn't need noise. The teen nodded. Inside the restaurant, people stood silent. They would never forget this night. They would never forget the quiet black teen in the corner. The one they judged. The one they ignored. The one who stood when nobody else could. And they all knew one thing now. This story was far from over. Because the men who attacked tonight were not the real enemy. And the next part of the truth would change everything. The restaurant doors were still open. Cold night air moved inside. Police lights flashed red and blue on the walls. But something else held everyone still. The black teen stopped walking. So did the billionaire. One of the police officers received a call on his radio. His face changed as he listened. His eyes slowly lifted toward the teen. Yes, sir, the officer said. Understood. He ended the call. Then he did something no one expected. He stood straighter, more serious. And then he said, Everyone, please stay where you are. The room froze. The teen turned slightly. What's wrong? He asked. The officer looked at him carefully. We just received new information. The billionaire already knew. He did not ask questions. Across the room, one of the attackers, still cuffed, looked up. His eyes landed on the teen again. But this time, there was no anger. Only fear. Pure fear. I know him, the man whispered. The officer turned. What did you say? I said, I know who he is. The room leaned in. The man swallowed hard. He's not just some rich kid. The teen said nothing. The billionaire stayed quiet. The attacker continued, his voice shaking. I saw him before. Years ago. People held their breath. Where? The officer asked. At a private training site, the man said. Off the record. No names. No faces. The man's hands trembled. They told us, he went on, if you ever see him, you walk away. The restaurant went dead silent. One of the other attackers laughed nervously. He's lying. The first man snapped his head toward him. No, I'm not. He looked back at the teen. You're the one they trained in silence, he said. The one who doesn't panic. The teen's eyes stayed calm. The man's voice dropped to a whisper. They called you the last layer. That word landed hard. The officer looked confused. What does that mean? The billionaire finally spoke. It means, he said slowly, when everything fails, he stands. The officer's eyes widened. The manager sat down. The waiter felt his legs shake. The woman who judged the teen earlier started crying quietly. The attacker lowered his head. We didn't know he was here, he said. If we knew, we never would have come. That was the moment. That was when they froze. Not because of guns. Not because of police. But because they understood the truth too late. The teen was never the weakest person in the room. He was the final one. The officer stepped back slightly. Sir, he said to the billionaire. With respect. Why was he never known? The billionaire answered calmly. Because targets are loud, he said. And protectors stay quiet. The teen finally spoke again. You made a choice tonight, he said to the attackers. So did I. The men said nothing. They couldn't. Fear had taken their voices. Police officers led the attackers away. As they passed the teen, none of them looked up. Not one. Outside, the flashing lights faded. Inside, people slowly began to breathe again. The restaurant staff moved carefully, like the room might break if they spoke too loud. The teen turned to the billionaire. It's done, he said. The old man nodded. For tonight, he replied. The teen looked around. People stared at him now with new eyes. Not judgment, not pity, but understanding. The waiter stepped forward again. This table is on the house, he said softly. For both of you. The billionaire smiled. Thank you, he said. But remember this. The waiter listened closely. Respect should come before fear, the billionaire continued. Not after. The waiter nodded, ashamed. The teen walked toward the door. Before leaving, he stopped. He looked back one last time at the room, at the people who whispered, at the people who ignored him, at the people who doubted him. Then he said one final sentence. Next time you see someone quiet, he said, don't mistake silence for weakness. And with that, he walked out. The door closed behind him, but the message stayed. And somewhere deep inside that restaurant, everyone knew this story was spreading, because the men who attacked a billionaire that night did not lose to money. They lost to someone they never saw coming. And the world was about to hear his name. Morning came slowly. The city looked normal again. Cars moved. People walked. Coffee shops opened. But for the four men from the restaurant, life was no longer normal. They sat in a cold holding room. No phones. No noise. Just walls and regret. One of them stared at the floor. Another kept shaking his leg. The third whispered prayers under his breath. The fourth man said nothing. He remembered the teen's eyes. That calm. That silence. It haunted him. Across the city, in a private office, the billionaire sat with his legal team. No shouting. No anger. Just facts. He assaulted civilians, one lawyer said. Video evidence is everywhere. The billionaire nodded. Press no charges for attention, he said. Only for truth. The lawyers understood. This was not about revenge. It was about consequences. At the police station, an officer questioned the attackers. Why him, the officer asked. Why the billionaire? One man laughed bitterly. He took everything from us. The officer leaned forward. No, he said. You lost it yourselves. The man had no answer. Because deep down, he knew it was true. Later that day, the video spread online. Millions of views. People watched the black teen stand calmly while grown men fell apart. Comments flooded in. Power doesn't look loud. I judge him too. That kid saved lives. The world saw what the restaurant had missed. In a quiet room at home, the teen watched none of it. He sat at the table, reading. The billionaire entered and placed 2 cups of tea down. You okay? The old man asked. The teen nodded. I don't like attention, he said. The billionaire smiled gently. Then you're doing life right. They sat in silence for a moment. Then the teen spoke again. Do they deserve it? The billionaire understood the question. They deserve justice, he said. Not anger. The teen nodded slowly. The court date came faster than expected. No cameras allowed inside. No drama. Just truth. The judge listened carefully. Video evidence played. Witnesses spoke. The attackers had no excuses left. The judge finally spoke. This was not desperation, she said. This was choice. She paused. And choices have prices. The sentence was long. Very long. The men lowered their heads. For the first time, fear felt permanent. Outside the courthouse, reporters waited. The billionaire walked past them without stopping. The teen walked beside him. Someone shouted, "Who is the boy?" The billionaire stopped. Just once. He is someone you should learn from, he said. Then he walked away. Back at the restaurant, things had changed. New rules. New training. Respect was no longer optional. The waiter who ignored the teen now trained new staff. Treat everyone the same, he told them. You never know who you're serving. The manager nodded. That lesson cost them one terrifying night, but it stayed forever. That evening, the teen returned to the same restaurant. Same corner table. Same quiet posture. This time, the waiter came immediately. Welcome, he said sincerely. Your table is ready. The teen smiled slightly. Not because of respect, but because it came without fear. The billionaire arrived a few minutes later. They sat. No guards. No noise. Just dinner. As they ate, the billionaire spoke. People think justice is loud, he said, but the strongest justice is quiet. The teen looked up. Like strength, he said. The billionaire smiled. Exactly. Outside, the city moved on. But inside many hearts, something had shifted. People talked differently now. They looked twice. They judged less. Because they learned something important. Justice does not always shout. Sometimes, it just stands up. And the quiet black teen who once sat ignored in the corner had changed more than one life that night, including his own. And though the danger was over, his journey was not, because the final lesson was still coming. And when it did, it would stay with him forever. The restaurant was quiet again. Not the fearful quiet from before. A peaceful quiet. The kind that comes after a storm has passed. The black teen sat at the same corner table one last time. Sunlight came through the window. His hoodie was the same. Simple. Clean. Honest. Nothing about him screamed power. And yet, power followed him. The billionaire stood beside him. "You ready?" the old man asked. The teen nodded. Yes. They stood up together and walked toward the door. Every person in the restaurant watched. Not with fear. Not with judgment. But with respect. The waiter opened the door. "Thank you," he said. Not as a worker. As a human. The teen looked at him and nodded back. Outside, the city moved as always. Cars passed. People laughed. Life continued. But something invisible had changed. Later that day, a small story appeared online. Not about money. Not about violence. But about a black teen who stood calm when danger came. People shared it. Parents showed it to their kids. Teachers talked about it in class. Comments filled with one sentence again and again. Never judge too fast. That night, the teen stood alone on a balcony. City lights below. Wind on his face. The billionaire joined him. "You handled everything well," the old man said. "I just stayed myself," the teen replied. The billionaire smiled. "That's the hardest thing to do." The teen was quiet for a moment. "Why do people treat me different?" he asked. Before they knew, the billionaire did not answer right away. "Because fear teaches people wrong," he said finally. "And silence scares them." The teen nodded. "So what do I do now?" he asked. The billionaire looked at him carefully. "You live," he said, "and you lead without shouting." Weeks passed. The restaurant incident faded from headlines. But not from memory. The four men sat in prison. They had time now. Time to think. Time to remember the moment they realized they were wrong. Not about the billionaire, but about the teen. The teen returned his life. School. Training. Quiet mornings. Simple habits. He helped people without telling anyone. He walked through places where people once judged him. Now they smiled. But he stayed the same. Because real strength does not need approval. One evening, he passed a young boy on the street. The boy was black, wearing a hoodie, standing alone. People walked past him. The teen stopped. "You good?" he asked. The boy nodded. "You belong wherever you stand," the teen said. The boy smiled. And that smile mattered. Years later, people would still talk about that night. Not because of fear, but because of the lesson. They would say, "There was a room full of loud people, and the quiet one changed everything." The billionaire would often repeat one line when asked about his grandson. "He didn't prove power," he would say. "He reminded us what it looks like." The story ends where it began. A quiet table, a calm presence, a world too quick to judge, but now a world a little wiser. Because sometimes the strongest voice is the one that never has to speak. And sometimes the person everyone ignores is the one holding everything together. Glowing star, final message. Never judge a book by its cover. Never mistake silence for weakness. And never forget, real power is calm.